What would you do if the last message you ever received from someone you loved was a warning you didn't understand in time? What if the person you trusted most knew something dangerous and chose to carry that secret alone? And what happens when silence becomes the loudest cry for help anyone has ever heard? On an ordinary Tuesday evening in Lagos, one voice note changed everything. By morning, a man was gone. And the people who loved him had no idea where to look or who to fear. This is a story about loyalty tested by greed, and about what happens when someone knows too much. About the price of silence and the cost of truth. Before everything fell apart, there was Daniel. He thought he knew his brother better than anyone alive. He was wrong. Welcome to Stories by the King, where every truth demands to be heard. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments. And if stories like this move you, please like and subscribe. It means everything. Because what happened next, no one expected. Daniel Okafor was not the kind of man who worried easily. He was 34 years old, an IT support technician living in a rented two-bedroom flat in Surulere, Lagos. His life was not glamorous, but it was stable. He woke up at 6 every morning, made instant coffee with too much sugar, and rode a Danfo bus to work at a small fintech company on the island. He called his mother in Enugu every Sunday. He paid his rent on time. He was, by every visible measure, a man who had learned to be content with ordinary things. But the one extraordinary thing in Daniel's life, the thing that made him laugh harder than anything else, the thing that could pull him out of any bad mood, was his younger brother, Michael. Michael Okafor was 29. He was the kind of person a room noticed. Loud in the best way. Quick with a joke. The brother who remembered everyone's birthday, who showed up unannounced with suya and cold drinks, who made every gathering feel like celebration. But Michael also had a restlessness to him, a hunger that Daniel had always quietly worried about. Michael moved between jobs quickly. He had big ideas that sometimes didn't land. He borrowed money with good intentions and sometimes forgot to return it. Daniel never held it against him. That was just Michael. You loved him exactly as he was, or you didn't love him at all. The two brothers spoke almost every day, mostly voice notes back and forth, a Lagos habit born from the chaos of traffic and noise, when typing felt like too much effort. Their voice note threads were full of laughter, complaints about work, arguments about football, and the kind of easy conversation that only happens between people who have known each other their entire lives. So when Daniel's phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and he saw it was a voice note from Michael, he didn't sit up. He didn't feel afraid. He just reached over from where he lay on his bed, pressed play, and listened. Michael's voice came through the speaker quiet and tight, not his usual loose, joking tone. He spoke quickly, like someone checking over their shoulder. "Danny. It's me. Listen, I can't talk long. Something is happening at work and I found something I wasn't supposed to find. I don't want to say too much on here. Just, if you don't hear from me by tomorrow morning, go to my apartment. Check under the mattress in the small room. There's an envelope. Don't show anyone. Not yet. Just pray for me, bro." A pause. Then softly, almost like it embarrassed him to say it, "I love you, man." Daniel sat up. He played it again. Then a third time. He typed back immediately, "Michael, what is this? Call me now." He waited. The double tick went blue, delivered, read, but no reply came. He called. The phone rang 6 times and went to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He told himself it was nothing. Michael was dramatic sometimes. He probably stumbled onto some office gossip and was being theatrical about it. Daniel set his phone on the nightstand and lay back down. But sleep didn't come. He stared at the ceiling fan turning slowly in the dark, and something cold settled in his chest, a feeling he could not name and could not shake. By 3 a.m., he was still awake. By 5 a.m., he had not heard a single word from his brother. And by the time the morning sun started to push through his curtains, Daniel Okafor already knew, deep in the place where a person knows things before their mind admits them, that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Daniel was at Michael's apartment in Ajigunle by 7:30 that morning. He had a spare key. Michael had given it to him 2 years ago after locking himself out twice in 1 month. The gate man, a thin older man named Boba Risi, looked up from his plastic chair and nodded without much concern. "Your brother entered last night, but I never see him come out." Daniel's stomach dropped. He climbed the 2 flights of stairs quickly, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The apartment was undisturbed, dishes in the rack, a half-drunk bottle of water on the kitchen counter, shoes by the door. Everything where it should be. Except Michael was not there. His bed had been slept in, but hastily, sheets twisted, pillow on the floor. His phone charger was still plugged into the wall socket. His wallet and keys were sitting on the side table. Nobody leaves without their wallet and keys. Nobody. Daniel went straight to the small room, the one Michael used mostly for storage, boxes stacked against the wall, a standing fan with a broken blade. He pulled the mattress up from the floor where it leaned against the wall, and there it was. A white envelope, unsealed, thick with folded papers. Daniel sat down on the bare floor and opened it with hands that had begun, very slightly, to tremble. Inside were printed documents, financial records, transaction logs, internal transfer approvals. Pages and pages of numbers. And at the top of the first page, someone had written in blue ink, in Michael's handwriting, "They have been doing this for 2 years. Millions. I can prove it." Daniel did not fully understand what he was reading. But he understood enough. He worked in fintech. He knew what transaction records looked like, and he knew what it meant when internal transfers were structured in small amounts, just below the threshold that would trigger automatic auditing flags, and routed through multiple accounts before disappearing. He had heard the term before. Layering. It was how people move stolen money without being caught. And what the documents in his hands appeared to show was that someone inside the company where Michael worked, a mid-sized logistics firm in Victoria Island, had been doing exactly that. Stealing from the company in carefully constructed pieces, then hiding the trail. And somehow, Michael had found the proof. Daniel called Michael's number again. Still nothing. He called Michael's closest friend, a man named Victor, who said he hadn't spoken to Michael since the weekend. He called Michael's colleague, a woman named Esther, who answered cautiously and said Michael had not come in that morning and was not responding to the office group chat. Daniel sat with the envelope on his lap and thought about what his brother had said in the voice note. "Something is happening at work. I found something I wasn't supposed to find." He opened his laptop and searched the name of the company on the documents. He found the website, the directors, the listed management team. And then one name made him stop breathing for a moment, a name that appeared on the transaction records as a signatory, and that also appeared on the company's official website as the head of finance. His name was Mr. Samuel Adeyemi. And below his name on the company website, in a small professional photo, was a face Daniel had seen before, at Michael's birthday party, 6 months ago, laughing and eating jollof rice, calling Michael my sharp guy. The man stealing from the company was someone Michael had called a mentor. Daniel spent 2 days trying to do this quietly. He told himself he wanted to be sure before he involved the police. He told himself he was protecting Michael, that going in wrong could make things worse. But if he was honest, truly honest, part of him was afraid. Because what he had found in that envelope was not small. This was not an office boy skimming petty cash. These were millions of naira moved with precision and patience across 2 years. The kind of theft that required planning. The kind that require people who were either very greedy or very desperate, and the kind that made disappearing someone who had found the evidence feel like a reasonable risk to take. Daniel knew that. And knowing it made every hour feel like it was costing something he could not get back. On the third day, he went to the police. Not the nearest station, he was smart enough to know that local officers could be reached by people with money. He went to the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, on Owolowo Road. He waited for hours in a plastic chair in a corridor that smelled of floor wax and photocopies. When he was finally seen by a young female investigator named Grace Adebisi, he laid everything on the desk. The envelope. The documents. The voice note played from his phone. He told her everything, Michael's message, the missing keys and wallet, the name Samuel Adeyemi. Grace listened without interrupting. Then she asked him one question: has anyone else touched these documents? Daniel shook his head. She looked at him for a long moment. Good, she said. Don't go back to that apartment. Don't contact anyone at that company. And don't tell anyone you came here. 48 hours later, Daniel's phone rang with an unknown number. He answered it, heart hammering. It was Michael. He was alive. He was in Ibadan, at a cousin's house, frightened and exhausted and barely sleeping. He said that the night of the voice note, he had gone back to the office late to retrieve something he had forgotten, and had overheard Samuel Adeyemi on the phone in the conference room, speaking to someone, telling them that the boy has seen the files and it needs to be handled tonight. Michael had understood immediately. He had run. He had sent Daniel the voice note from a borrowed phone, left his own phone behind to buy time, and disappeared before anyone came looking. He had been hiding ever since, terrified of what would happen if he surfaced too soon. When Daniel told him he had gone to the EFCC, Michael went quiet for a long moment. Then he exhaled a long, shaking breath, and said, "Thank God. Thank God." Samuel Adeyemi was arrested 6 days later. Investigators found the layered accounts, the false approvals, the money trails that Michael's documents had pointed to. They also found evidence that Adeyemi had made phone calls the night of Michael's disappearance to 2 men with criminal records, men he had apparently intended to use to silence his sharp-eyed junior colleague. The calls had been made. But Michael had already vanished, and the men had found an empty apartment. Those 2 men were arrested as well. The company, facing the scale of the fraud revealed in the investigation, launched an internal review that ultimately uncovered additional theft by 2 other senior staff members. It unraveled completely, the way things built on secrets always do, once a single thread is pulled hard enough. Michael came back to Lagos on a Thursday afternoon. Daniel was waiting outside the motor park. When his brother stepped off the bus, thinner, ice-shadowed, older somehow in a way that had nothing to do with age, Daniel walked forward and held him. Neither of them said anything for a while. There was nothing to say that felt equal to what those days had caused them. The fear. The silence. The terrible weight of not knowing. Michael would later say, in the weeks that followed, that what haunted him most was not the danger, it was the idea that if he had made a different choice that night, if he had told himself it wasn't his problem and walked away from what he had found, he would have had to live with that. With the knowledge that he had looked at something wrong and chosen comfort over conscience. "That's not who Mama raised us to be," he told Daniel one evening, over dinner, quietly. Daniel nodded. He already knew. Michael Okafor survived because he told the truth, and because his brother refused to let silence win. In Lagos, in Nairobi, in Accra, in every city where people are just trying to build honest lives, there are moments when someone sees something wrong and has to decide, do I look away, or do I speak? Michael spoke. And it nearly cost him everything. But it also cost Samuel Adeyemi everything, because that is the nature of hidden things. They do not stay hidden forever. Trust is powerful. But greed is patient. And some betrayals begin with a smile at a birthday party. So tell me, what would you have done if you had been Michael that night? Would you have run? Would you have stayed silent? Let me know in the comments below. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is Stories by the King, where every truth demands to be heard.